Welcome to Crime Most French, a fortnightly podcast covering intriguing cases carried out on French soil. Researched and narrated by Cedric and rudely interrupted by me, Melanie. We're the true crime podcast All the Lions. Crack open le vin and let the mayhem commence.
The episode this week is Dr. Petiot. A bad smell guides the emergency services to a house where bodies are discovered in Paris.
This is often the case, isn't it, with these stories? It often starts with the stench of decaying bodies.
Yes. The house belongs to a doctor who will become the most famous and infamous in French history.
It's odd, I've never heard of him.
You've never heard of Dr. Petiot?
No.
Oh, wow, okay. Everybody will know about him. Not necessarily the details, but everybody will have heard of Dr. Petiot here.
So he's basically, in fame level, he's the equivalent of Dr. Crippen, I guess.
Probably. On the 11th of March 1944, so during the war, the fire brigade is called to a large house in Paris. The neighbors alerted them because of a foul smell coming from their next-door neighbor's property. The bad smells have been coming for several days now, and they can't take it anymore. The house has had its wall raised, so they can't see what's happening inside. So the house has very high walls.
So it's completely secluded?
Yes. The house, 21 Rue Le Sueur, had been abandoned. There was a note on the door asking to forward mail to an address in Auxerre, so Massif Central, not far from Lyon.
Okay.
Which is totally insane because it's located in the 16th district in Paris. That's the most expensive location in Paris. It's an actual house. That could cost millions and millions and millions today. But anyway, whoever owned it at the time hasn't been there for quite a while.
I wouldn't have thought it would have been that easy to move around during the war.
If you had the right connections, you could get permits. I suspect he had.
Yes.
But I guess if you stayed within the occupied zone, you are probably okay to move around as long as you had a passport. Changing zone would have been a lot harder.
And there generally is one rule for the poor and one rule for the rich. So.
Yeah. Anyway, the fire brigade breaks a window on the second floor to get into the house. A few minutes later, the front doors open. They're big, massive doors, like you know in Paris. They're like meters wide, meters tall. They weigh tons. Yeah, those doors. So they open, and the firemen that come out look pale and shaken. One of them even puked on the side of the house. So just out and pukes. So you can tell something's happening there.
Yeah.
One of them went to one of the policemen waiting outside and said, "Sirs, I think you have your work cut out for you."
No dear. This sounds like the start of a very, very bad movie.
Yes. To shaken the fire brigade, yes, because they see a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
When the fire brigade went in, they quickly smelled something smoky and bad in the house.
Okay.
They could hear also a boiler running like crazy somewhere in the house, like a heating boiler.
Yeah.
Once they get to the basement, they discover bodies everywhere on the floor, most of them in pieces. Some of the bodies were burning in one of the two wood boilers in the room.
Okay.
So you have body parts everywhere, and some of them are currently cooking.
I have images of Chainsaw Massacre, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, it's worse because there's a lot of bodies. It's not one or two like in the Chainsaw Massacre. It's many, many, many bodies.
Wow.
After that, there are three versions of what happened.
Okay.
Number one, as the police was in the house, Dr. Petiot, the owner, arrived on a bicycle with a tarp-covered trailer. There were loads of those during the war because you couldn't get petrol. He pretended to be his brother, Maurice, and a resistant. We're at the very end of the war, so the tide was starting to turn at that point.
Yeah.
And apparently he would have explained that the bodies were that of Nazis and collaborators that he and his brother had killed. Apparently, that foxed the cops, and they let him go.
No, rookie mistake.
Yes. Version 2, he never went back to the house. Instead, the commissioner, Georges Massu, We have heard of him in previous episodes. He's the most likely inspiration for Maigret. Would have turned up at his surgery, because he had the surgery, which was just round the house. So it was part of the house. It was in the corner at the back.
That's quite common, isn't it?
At the time, yeah. I remember the pediatrician I was going to when I was a kid also had this surgery in what used to be stables on the other side of the courtyard. So yeah, it was fairly common. But he didn't find him.
Right.
That's version 2. Version 3 sees Petiot go to Rue Lauriston at the police station, and we have heard of those in previous episodes, after he discovered that the police was at his house. We have talked about the Rue Lauriston police station a few times before, because it was also the Gestapo HQ in Paris, and the cops that were working at the police station were massively corrupt. We've heard of them in many cases because they were doing things that were not completely legal, and one of them became a gangster in Toulouse.
Yeah. I was going to ask, is it the guy who then turned his back on the Gestapo? Yeah.
So he turned there. He turned up there. Apparently, he looked for help, and a commissioner called Lafont, who was running the police station, would have blackmailed him into working for him, and then allowed him to disappear.
I see.
That's version 3.
Okay.
We don't really know which one is true. There's no proof of any of those versions. Version 1 is the most likely. Is not very likely to me, because even though we were close to the end of the war, Paris liberated itself on the 25th of August. There was an uprising on the 25th of August that kicked out the Germans. So we are very close to that. But even then, that would be risky to say you're resistant and you killed Nazis.
Is that where de Gaulle walked up the Champs-Élysées?
After that. He did that after that. But what happened was on 25th of August, there was an uprising starting, but the American army was still a few hundred kilometers away.
Right.
So what happened was de Gaulle, to avoid a bloodbath, because the Germans were still in Paris with armored cars and stuff.
Yeah.
He didn't want people to be killed in the thousands and the thousands, so he told Leclerc, who was running the 2nd DB, so the 2nd Armored Division, to get to Paris as fast as possible to make sure that the German didn't do a massacre.
Cleared out.
So that's what happened. He just went through as fast as he could, way ahead of the Americans, through the German lines to get to Paris as fast as he could. And that's what happened. So Paris was liberated on the 25th of August.
Right.
So we are close to that, but telling the police that you're resistant and you've killed Nazis and Germans, that would be very, very risky.
Yeah.
So I don't think he would have done that. That would have been crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why Hitler told the German general that was the commander for Paris to bomb Paris, and he refused because of the uprising.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the story.
Okay.
So I wouldn't have done that. I don't think anybody with any kind of sense would have taken the risk, because we know that a lot of the police was really working for the Germans. So that would have been risky. So I would say story number 1, not likely. Story number 3 would be weird, because there's been, as far as I can tell, search in newspapers and books and stuff, there's been no proof that he had any links to the Rue Lauriston. So going there blind and expect some help, again, that would be crazy, because you don't know what you're going to find. You don't know. They were working with the Gestapo, so why would you go and find help against the police there? I don't know. It sounds very strange.
And also, I mean, I think you might be hugely underestimating what they would cover up.
Yeah, exactly. And at the time, we know from previous episodes that they had smelt the tide turning, and that's why some of them left Paris to become gangsters in Toulouse or wherever, because they knew things were coming. And at that point, the Americans were close to landing, and everybody knew it. So that would have been very, very risky to do that. So to me, 1 and 3 are not likely.
No.
Version 2 is the most likely.
Yes.
So if you have something to hide, and you learn that the Roses are at your house, you don't
instantly
go there.
You're not who you say
exactly.
you are.
You disappear, and you don't go to your surgery either.
No.
The other place you expected to be, you don't go there.
No.
So you leave the area and go as far as you can, as quickly as you can.
Exactly. Yeah, no, number 2, definitely.
It makes way more sense. So they looked for him at the house, not there. Looked at him at the surgery, not there. They don't know where he is. Yeah, that's the likely explanation.
Yeah, you've
and
already
in the meantime,
talked to him.
He was legging it to Auxerre.
Exactly. You've already talked to him and you've let him go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's the most likely. But we don't know because there's been no records and we don't really know what happened during that period. So, anyway, he manages to escape. That's the conclusion. He's gone. Nobody knows where he is.
Right.
In the meantime, the police searches his house.
Meanwhile, back at the House of Horrors.
The House of Horrors. At the bottom of the dark garden, there's a shed. And they discover dozens of bodies discovering in quicklime in an old septic tank. So there's more bodies.
Oh my God, my head is going to explode.
So the basement is covered in body parts.
So some
of them are burning.
We're not talking about a family here.
No.
I take it we're talking about the largest number of victims we've ever talked about.
Most likely, yes. Yeah. That's a lot of people. I don't remember, at the time they have no idea. All they know is they find body parts everywhere.
Oh my God.
So they find more dissolving in quicklime in the septic tank.
Why are we doing this just after we've had lunch?
Oh, you're the one who wanted to do it. They also discover 72 suitcases, 655 kilos of various belongings, of which 1,760 items of clothing in the shed.
Holy Mother of God.
So 72 suitcases most likely means 72 people.
Well, not necessarily. If they're your parents, that's only their suitcases.
Yeah, but it wasn't people going on holiday. No. It was people fleeing. You flee with as little as you can, so you have a suitcase, if that.
Yes.
So that's probably 72 people.
Yeah.
They also discover a triangular room about 2 meters on the side.
That's a bit of a weird shaped room.
Yes. At the back of the surgery room.
Uh-huh.
The police, when they discovered it, thinks that that's where the victims were killed.
So that's his Dexter kill room then?
Yes. They think that what would happen was he would inject his victim with various poisons, in the surgery, when they come for surgery.
Yeah.
And then there was a fake door going to that triangular room, which had on the other side another fake door that looked like it was going into the street.
Right.
But in fact, there was a wall behind it.
So it made perfect sense.
So he would pretend to inject them with usually vaccines.
Oh, God.
Inject them with poison and say, okay, you can go home. That's the door. As you do a lot in those small surgeries, you go in one way, out
and
the
you
other
come
way.
out the other, yeah.
So they would go into that small room and they see the door on the other side. They would lock the room to the surgery and they would be locked up because there's nowhere to go.
And then basically they would just fall over and die, presumably.
No, it's a bit more complicated because they discovered heavy chains attached to the wall.
Oh my God.
So they think that he would, when they start being weak enough, he would attach them to the wall. And there was also a hole inside the house where he could watch what was happening in that room. So he could watch them die attached to the wall with the chains. So that's what they think he was doing.
Oh my God, he's worse than Norman Bates.
Oh yeah, he was way worse than Norman Bates. Yeah.
Well, yes, because Norman Bates was based on somebody true, wasn't he?
Possibly, yes. But still, it's not the same. It's not like he's going to stab the people. He's poisoning them. They also think that he used gas as well. He tried to gas them and see what would happen. Again, we're watching them die in the tiny room.
I'm sure there was places at that time, in other places in Europe, where he could have gone and seen people being gassed. I mean that's just insane. Why did he want to watch people being gassed?
We'll learn about it.
Oh my God, this guy is a monster. How don't I know about this guy?
That's
I know
why
about
he's famous and infamous. Everybody knows about Dr. Petiot here.
Oh, I can't believe
it. He's legendary. It's pure evil.
Yes.
From the Second World War, apart from Hitler, there's 2 people here that are well known. It's Dr. Petiot and Klaus Barbie. Yeah, Klaus Barbie was the Gestapo in Lyon who killed who knows how many people and deported thousands and thousands. And Dr. Petiot, who killed also possibly hundreds of people in his surgery.
This guy's Genghis Khan bad.
Well, not the same scale. Genghis Khan killed millions of people.
I know.
Probably killed more people than Hitler. But still, yes, okay. He was pure evil. Yeah.
Slight hyperbole, but I cannot think of a serial killer with that high up. Maybe, what's her name? Amelie Dwyer. The woman who was running the baby factory. Possibly, but it's hard to know because there's no real counting at the time, so we don't know. But yeah, possibly she could have
reach
Yeah, I
that
mean,
number.
but she is supposed to have made hundreds of babies disappear.
Yeah,
So he's
yeah, but she was selling some. She was
well,
adopting some. It's very difficult to know what happened to the babies, and so there was no paperwork or anything. So,
no.
but yeah, most likely it's the kind of number that yes.
Yeah,
we're
but
looking at.
normally we talk about awful people, but this is just orders of
Mm.
magnitude awful.
Oh yeah, it's more than serial killer. It's serial killer meeting mass murderer.
Oh yeah, that's
Except he's doing
dictatorship.
it one by one.
It's almost dictatorship scale.
Yeah. So to disappear, he joins the FFE. So that's the internal French forces. That's the main, one of the 2 or 3 main resistance groups in the country at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's FFE, FFL, and I can't remember what the other one is. He joins under the name Captain Valery, and he explains later, when he's caught, that his resistance network, called Freitox, I've never heard that name before,
Yeah.
would be dismantled by the Germans. So Freitox was the name of a famous brand of insecticide at the time.
Okay.
He says that it was in reference to the hunt for collaborators and snitches, because it was just like bugs.
Yeah. You're getting rid of the.
Yeah, so that's why he called his network Freitox.
Mm-hmm.
But it was dismantled by the Germans eventually. After that, he apparently became Doctor Captain in the army under the name Dr. Wetterwald.
Okay.
And put in charge of hunting traitors and collaborators.
Right.
So he would have been put in a group that was doing what he pretended he had been doing.
The irony.
The irony, yeah. At the end of the war, an arrest warrant is issued for him, but he still manages to evade capture for a while.
Mm.
In September 1944, Jacques Yonnet, a lieutenant in the then newly formed Secret Service, French Secret Service, publishes an article in the newspaper Resistance. In that article, he describes Petiot as a soldier working for the Third Reich. Petiot is pissed off. So he decides to use his right to reply, and he challenges the accusations in the newspaper.
Okay.
The Secret Services are not that dumb. They know that where the newspaper is distributed.
Mm-hmm.
So if he had access to that newspaper that quickly, he must be in the area where it's distributed.
Okay.
And they know it's Paris and suburbs. So they know he's not far. He's still in Paris.
Yeah.
They just don't know where in Paris.
Mm-hmm. And Paris isn't that small.
Yeah. And they know he pretends in his reply to work for the resistance. So what they do is they compare writing samples from the letter he sent to every single one of the officers of the FFE.
Well, that must have taken a long time.
Yes, but it was very easy because he was a doctor.
Oh.
Not many doctors were in the resistance.
No, that's true.
They tend when they were doing something for the resistance, they tended to be like adjacent.
Yes. Somebody who you would take.
Yes, he wouldn't be an officer
Yes.
in the FFE. There would be a doctor who helps.
Yes, he would provide
doing
medical
things.
assistance
Yes.
in the background.
Whereas he was an officer in the FFE, according to what he was saying.
Yeah.
So they compared a sample for everybody, and in no time they found the same writing. So they knew exactly who he was.
Do you know, it's just time after time you see that ego from
Yes.
a serial killer who writes in...
BTK.
Yeah, BTK. Oh
what
my
the
God.
dumbass.
What an idiot.
Same thing.
Yes.
So he's arrested at the metro station Saint-Mand-d'Étoile. I don't think it exists anymore. By an inspector called Henri Soutif, who replaced Georges Massu, the commissioner.
Okay.
Because at that point he had been arrested. And I can't remember why he was arrested. But anyway, they trailed him for a while and they managed to corner him in the metro station. In his pocket are found a 9mm revolver, many ID cards, and that brings the inquiry a little bit wider because they find papers in his pockets that show that his brother, who lives in Auxerre, he had a shoe shop, I think, was involved, that his wife, Georgette, his daughter-in-law, and his mistress, Elonie Arnaud, and a bicycle salesman called Albert Neuhausen, are somehow all involved in that.
Right.
And when they go and look in their houses, they find suitcases.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of suitcases. More suitcases than a person would normally have.
Yeah.
So they know they have been helping him as well.
So this is some kind of, they've been accomplices. They're
Yes. Yeah. They helped him. At that point, it's not known if they knew what was going on, but they have definitively helped him doing something that had to do with those people who disappeared.
There's certainly fences at the very
Possibly,
least.
yes. Mm-hmm. It's very possible that their involvement was to sell whatever he was giving them. He was giving them suitcases of stuff and saying, go and sell that stuff and make money out of it.
You know, to have that many dead patients, I think alarm bells would be ringing.
Yeah. And also, they're not located in Paris. They're all in Auxerre and they're at a certain distance, so they wouldn't have taken part in the murders or anything. No. But yes, they were probably fences. Mm-hmm. Marcel Petiot was born on the 17th of January 1897 in Auxerre. So again, not far from Lyon. Mm-hmm. He was born 10 years before his brother Maurice. His dad, Felix, 30 when he was born, was employed by the post office, and his mum, Marthe, 22 at the time, was unemployed. Over time, Felix goes up the hierarchy, and the family becomes low bourgeoisie in Auxerre. Mm-hmm. But low bourgeoisie in the middle of nowhere. We're not talking super rich.
No.
But they have money. They can eat all month. Mm-hmm. Petiot quickly shows a high intelligence. At 5-year-old, he reads like a 10-year-old. But he also shows signs of violence. He's caught distributing pornography at school. Wow. And he likes to torture cats.
Oh, God.
So, as far as I'm concerned, death penalty, case closed.
Yep, all the alarm bells going off.
Yeah. His childhood is a bit fuzzy. Nobody really knows what he's been doing and what's been happening to him. Not much is known for sure. A lot of it comes from him when he talks to people and cops and stuff. Yeah. So it's very hard to know what's true, what's not true.
Yeah, serial killers are never overly reliable narrators. Yeah.
When his mother dies when he's 12, after being interned in a psychiatric hospital, so it runs in the family, obviously, for mental illness, which isn't clear as well. We don't really know if she really had a mental illness. It's very fuzzy to know why she was sent to a mental hospital, but she was, and she died there. Mm-hmm. After that, he goes from school to school because he's expelled for indiscipline. Yeah. From one place after the other.
Well, being a pornography kingpin.
In primary school.
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of...
At 17, he's arrested for breaking into mailboxes. But not to steal money or checks.
Right.
It's to read letters and postcards.
So he's a massive voyeur then?
Yes.
As we already know.
Yeah. He's not sentenced because a psychiatrist declared him unable to be judged in court. He would apparently, from what the doctor said, today we would call it bipolar. The psychiatrist also described him as an abnormal personality and socially disconnected.
Wow. You don't really need to be a psychologist to come up with that, do you?
And that would be warning signs that it's going to get worse.
Oh, yes.
But at the time, they didn't really know or care. On the 11th of January 1916, he joins the army ahead of mobilization. So early for him. He also abandons his medicine studies because you can't be a soldier and do medicine at the same time. He's injured on the foot on the 20th of March 1917. In a hospital where he's being looked after, he's accused of stealing blanket and ends up in a military prison in Orléans. Okay, so he's
also a kleptomaniac.
Yes, totally. He's then transferred to the psychiatric services.
I mean, I never, want to wish ill on people, but probably would have been better if this guy had actually died during the war. A lot of people would have been alive.
Yes. The army documents describe him as neurasthenic, mentally unstable, paranoid, depressive, and full of phobias.
So I'm wondering how much medication he would have been on if he was around today, and whether it would have managed to keep him more stable.
Probably yes. But at the time, you got no treatment.
No, of course not.
But when the army describes you as a nut job, that is not good.
Yes.
You shouldn't be allowed out.
No.
But they do. They leave him go. So he goes back to the front in 1918. He's injured again, and he gets released from the army for mental problems. Surprise.
Wow.
Over the years, he appears in front of several commissions to judge his degree of invalidity, because you get benefits because of invalidity. Depending on which interview you look, it varies between 50 and 100%. Remember, it's mental. So the final commission declares him precociously demented. That's the last time. I think it's 1936. That's the last time he sees a doctor.
Precociously demented.
So lucky for him, veterans benefit from a fast-track system at the university. So he goes back to study medicine, and he finishes his degree in 3 years, which is super fast. That's the 15th of December 21.
It's great that they can allow somebody who has large mental health problems to study in medicine.
Yes.
That is so wrong.
Yes, it's a bit scary. So in 1922, he opened his own surgery in Villeneuve-sur-Yonne.
Right.
We're still talking east-ish, southeast-ish. He becomes popular mainly because he does free consultations and vaccinations for the poor. So he's a good guy. But his kleptomania is also noticed.
Right, okay.
He's elected councillor in 1925.
Right.
And mayor in 1926.
Wow.
So he is popular.
Yeah.
Even though he's stealing stuff. On the 4th of June 1927, he marries Georgette Valentine Lablé. They have a unique son together called Gerhard, who's sometimes called Gerard in newspapers. But
Gerhard.
Some of them call him Gerhard.
Oh, I guess they're from
German.
the East. So Germanic names might sneak in.
Yeah, possibly. Or it could be that she had German ancestors.
Yeah, but Gerhard's not your typical French name.
No. Gerard is the equivalent. The son is born on the 19th of April 1928.
Right.
Quickly, reality catches up with him. He ends up in court for a few cases of fraud against the Social Security mainly, because he was siphoned funds.
Which he probably didn't need to do.
I suspect not, but he just couldn't help himself. He's kleptomaniac.
Yes,
so.
Clearly.
He avoids prison every time thanks to a very good lawyer he knows.
Yeah, once again proving that if you've got money, you can stay out of jail.
Yeah, definitively. However, he loses his mandate as mayor because
that's not
they've decided you've been in front of the tribunal way too many times. You can't be a mayor.
Okay, fair enough.
And he eventually gets banned from running as a general councillor in 1934.
Okay.
Because he cheated on his electric meter. So he was stealing electricity.
Is there anything he doesn't say? He steals blankets.
Yeah. Everything he can.
Social security, lives, electricity.
Yeah. And then some strange things happen and rumors start to point the finger at him. His maid disappears.
Oh, okay.
And then the owner of the milk factory next door dies and the factory burns down.
Oh, God. Okay.
That plus the justice system looking at him more and more.
Did he feel it was time to move?
Yeah, because they knew that he had dodgy dealings. He decides to move to Paris.
In a bigger place, easier to hide.
Yeah. Once in Paris, he opens a surgery again. To make it profitable fast, he runs an ad campaign that a snake oil sailor would run. He promises to cure all kinds of illnesses using various techniques such as electrotherapy. That nobody understood at the time, but it's understood.
Oh, he's taking a holistic approach.
Today it would be naturalist or some bullshit like that, yeah.
A doctor who specialises in homeopathy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it can cure everything. So that's what he would do today, yeah. To make sure he doesn't run out of money, he also deals in drugs under the cover of being a specialist of disintoxication and treating addicts. So today he will distribute methadone.
Oh, right, okay, so he's trying to run himself as a rehab doctor as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he just signs prescriptions for drugs for patients who are druggies.
Okay.
That's what he does.
It's always good.
So they give him money and he gives them whatever. At the time, probably heroin. Yeah. I would assume.
I mean,
cocaine, possibly even.
During the opioid crisis, there's whole pharmacies that you run like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
So then things get weird again. He's arrested for stealing books in a well-known bookshop. So Gilbert Joseph, I used to go there. They specialize in university books now.
Oh, yes.
We walked past it even not long ago in September.
Yeah, I was going to say, what were we doing?
They have stalls on the side on the pavement. He was told books there.
Mm-hmm.
When he's questioned by the judge, he says that a genius doesn't care about low material things as that.
Okay.
He's declared mental.
Yeah.
And sent to a psychiatric hospital, of course, again. But that avoids him prison. So upside.
Yeah.
Once there, he's evaluated by 2 specialists. One declares him crazy and not responsible for his actions. The other declares him sane, but with no scruples and no mental compass.
Yeah, I'm thinking the second guy knows more about what he's talking about than the first guy.
I think today, yes. Because nut job or crazy is not really a diagnosis. So
no.
Yeah, today the second one is probably what you would hear.
I mean, he's just a psychopath.
Oh yeah, totally.
With sociopathic tendencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kleptomaniac and full of phobias and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would have OCD probably today.
I guess for all we know, he could have actually had OCD.
Oh, he would have had, yes, but it wouldn't have been diagnosed. It wasn't a thing at the time. But today, yeah, he would totally have OCD. He's freed on the 20th of February 1937. And he goes back to his surgery.
So 37...
That's 4 years later that the bodies are discovered in his house. Yeah.
Right. That's a lot of work in 4 years.
No, it's not 4 years. It's 7 years later.
7 years, yes.
7 years later, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, they find him, and he's sent to trial with his accomplices. So, first, his wife, Newhausen, and Newhausen are tried for dealing in stolen goods.
Surely she must have known what was going on. I mean, that's in her house. All this happened.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, there's part of the house maybe when she wasn't allowed to go. I don't know.
Living with that smell? She must have known.
Who knows? I don't know. He wasn't burning bodies the whole time. It was just at the end that he did, because he discovered that the quicklime is not that quick. So he was running out of space to dissolve the bodies.
Okay, so he needed quicker lime.
He knew he needed a quicker way of getting rid of bodies, and that's why he started burning them.
Well, fire is infinitely faster than...
I think when they looked at his septic tank, they found bodies that had been there for quite a long time. But to dissolve a body in quicklime takes, don't know, weeks probably, if not a month or whatever. And when you have bodies and bodies and bodies, you just can't keep up. Once your septic tank is full of bodies, there's nothing more you can do, so you have to find a better solution. Burying them in the garden is not practical, so he was trying to burn them into the boilers. So, but that was really just before he was caught. It didn't do that before, otherwise the neighbours would have complained about it.
No, I've got ice water running through my veins thinking about this house.
Yeah. His brother Maurice is accused of involuntary murder. Today it would probably be manslaughter, I suspect. But the judge decided to abandon all the proceedings against them, and they have let it go.
It's crazy they let the wife go. In my eyes...
She's only accused of dealing with stolen goods, so... at the time, remember, we were in 1944. They had bigger crimes to try. The whole system was
you're right.
swamped in quite a lot of accusations of collaboration, traitors, whatever, murderers. So anything below a certain threshold, like manslaughter, probably wouldn't be part of it. It would say, okay, don't do it again, but that's it.
He clearly meets the threshold.
Oh, yeah.
She doesn't. Okay.
Exactly. So Petiot, that the press called Dr. Satan.
I think that would be an adequate name.
Yeah. He's tried on his own, of course, because now he's on his own, from the 18th of March to the 4th of April 1946. And that's the time of all the big trials. He's tried for voluntary murders, theft, with special circumstances of premeditation. More precisely, he's accused of having killed between 1942 and 1944 27 people, of which 12 Jews and 4 pimps and their prostitutes.
Right.
From the second day of the trial, Petiot proudly boasts 63 murders, so we're going up in numbers. He insists, as in one of the stories about his arrest, that it was collaborators, traitors, and Germans that he killed.
Oh, well, he is Dexter, isn't he?
Yes. However, he struggles to explain why there's kid pajamas in the suitcases that are found in his house, in the shed. He can't explain that.
Okay, so he's real human garbage.
Yes.
He's killing kids as well.
Yeah.
Just when I thought I couldn't loathe him anymore.
Yep. So the police has done quite a lot of work. For the time, it's surprising.
Yeah.
And they managed to track some of his victims.
That's good.
So to attract people he could kill, that wouldn't be questioned. So they could disappear without anybody asking anything. He mentioned to his hairdresser that he could help people escape Paris and go to Argentina for a good price.
Okay.
His first victim is thought to be a Polish Jew who grew worried of the way Germany was treating Jews at the time. So that would have been 1942. He lived next door to Petiot and mentioned his worries to him. And Petiot offered to help and find a way for him to leave the country if he came to a rendezvous with a lot of money, gold, and jewels. He would never be seen again. When his wife inquired about where her husband was, Petiot produced a letter, apparently written from a hotel in Buenos Aires, explaining that her husband has safely made it to Argentina and would very soon make his wife come join him. That's how we know about it.
Yeah.
In February 42, he is accused of prescribing heroin to a man and his girlfriend, an ex-prostitute and addict. But awaiting trial, the man disappears. And strangely, his girlfriend, the addict, died of tetanus.
Oh, right. Okay.
So nobody to press charges against Petiot. He goes free.
Yeah.
That was February 42.
So there's breadcrumbs kind of like that they followed.
Yeah. Shortly after, he's accused in a fake prescription for heroin affair. A woman was caught with a prescription for heroin that he had written, but she modified. She, strangely, disappeared on the 25th of March. And the letter at her home describes that she has been an addict for years and had fled to the free zone. Her mum doesn't buy it, and she started to investigate. She disappeared as well.
Oh my God.
And so on, and so on, and so on. So there's a whole list. If you read the accounts in the newspapers, you get lists of those people who somehow either were patients of his and disappear, and then their family disappears not long after when they start asking questions, or people like Jews trying to flee the country disappear and their family disappears as well. There's tons of those. So that's just three or four, the three or four first ones, but that's constant from 42 to 44. That's his full job. That's what he does all day.
It's just so evil of him to exploit just how awful Europe was for Jewish people, to make them even more bloody vulnerable than they were, to add him to the list of drug addicts and prostitutes. This guy is so awful.
Yeah. During the whole trial, when he didn't boast about his accomplishments, which he did quite a lot, he had a non-caring attitude. He even fell asleep a few times because he just didn't care.
Oh, this is during the trial?
Yeah, during the trial. Some newspapers say that he was just trying to send the message that what was happening was beneath him and he had no interest in that trial, so he would just fall asleep.
It wasn't the fact that he's a psychopath and just doesn't care.
Yeah, totally. The experts that analyze him decide that he has no mental illness. One of the doctors says that they worked on him in a team of 3 doctors for many, many, many hours, and none of them felt that there was anything wrong with him, and he was completely responsible for his actions.
Yeah, he's just an evil fucker.
Yeah. So he's not crazy, therefore he can be tried.
Yeah.
So his lawyer has a hard time this time.
That's a poison chalice.
Apparently, his closing arguments were epic. They lasted 6 hours.
Really?
Yes.
Jesus.
He tried. But there was no way he could get him off. So he's sentenced to death for 24 of the murders. So 24 could be proven to have been done by him.
Right. But there was probably more.
Oh, there's probably 72 suitcases. I suspect 72 dead, at least.
Yeah. So we're not
Because that's the 72 suitcases found
Yeah.
in his shed.
Yes.
Remember, his wife and brother
Or had
and
some.
were also
Yeah.
taking the suitcases
Mm.
away and selling stuff. So there could be hundreds.
So we're not thinking he's Henry Lucas and he's.
Oh, no,
kind
no,
of-
no. It's properly proven.
Yeah.
That's him.
Mhm.
And he says himself that he killed 63 people. He said it on the second day of the trial. So, yeah, no, it's not Joey Lucas. He is actually a murderer, and he's sentenced to death. So while in prison, he writes a book on gambling and strategies to manage probabilities, which apparently wasn't that bad. And during the trial...
So he's Nash. He's John Nash.
He was an early Nash. It wasn't exactly the same thing, but it was kind of the precursor to game theory.
Yeah, game theory, yeah.
During the trial, he signs copies of his books.
Oh, fuck him. I'm sorry for the bad language, but fuck him.
When on the morning of the execution, the equivalent of a DA here, wakes him up and tells him, "Be brave, Petiot, it's time," his answer was, "Fuck off, you're pissing me off." When asked if he had any last word, he said, "I'm only a traveler that takes his baggage with him." And it reminded a lot of people of Landru's last words to his lawyer, which were, "That is my baggage," when his lawyer asked him why he did it. So people think that he was aware of what Landru had said to his lawyer because it appeared in newspapers.
Yeah.
And that was his last words as well, which was very closely related. So Landru was episode 4. On the 25th of May, 1946, at 5:07 a.m., he's guillotined in the courtyard of the prison. Witnesses say that he died completely detached and smiling, and he was the first civilian execution not for treason after the war.
Oh, right, okay.
So after all that, he was buried in a special cemetery for executed prisoners in Ivry. There was a special cemetery for all those people.
Yeah, I take it's kind of like non-consecrated ground type.
Oh, it's been moved now, anyway.
Type of it. Well, yes.
But after the abolition of the death penalty, only it was moved. Nobody knows where the bodies are now.
That's probably
because it
for
was
the
kept
best.
secret.
I think that's probably
You don't
for
want
the
people
best.
to go and dig up
Yeah.
the bones or anything. So it no longer exists, and it's just, that's it. That's all the bodies are gone. Nobody knows either where his fortune is, because he made a lot of money. It's estimated about 30 million euros out of his murders.
Right.
So about the same in US dollars, I guess. Several people buy his house after he's dead to search for that money. They think it's in the house.
Of course they do.
But nothing is ever found. The house is demolished in the 50s, and a building of flats is built in its place now. Petiot's wife works at a baker's after her husband is executed.
Sucks to be her.
She always maintained that her husband wasn't a murderer.
Yeah, bullshit.
Even he said he was, but she doesn't accept it. But he was an executioner, in her words, and he only killed people that had been designated traitors by other people. That's her story.
She's the type of woman that thinks that women are asking for it when they're raped. She's awful. I don't like her at all. You were complicit.
According to some sources, at the end of the 40s, she moved to Argentina, where her son, Gerhard, already lived. Some suspect that she financed that move with some of the money.
Oh, I see.
But again, no proof.
Strange that she should go to a kind of like a Nazi enclave.
Yes, exactly. Full of Germans and no extradition treaty with anyone, yes.
Yes.
So that's the end of the story of Dr. Petiot.
Yeah, and this is where I normally put in some pithy words, but not this time. No, that's too dark.